Joining us now, Andrew Weissmann, former FBI general counsel, former senior member of the Mueller probe, Charles Coleman, civil rights attorney and also an MSNBC legal analyst, and Chuck Rosenberg, former U.S. attorney and senior FBI official.
So let's start with you here, Andrew. It was a dramatic day in court yesterday, and we last heard Fani Willis herself on the stand. She was pretty confrontational. She had lengthy answers to, she said, be comprehensive and show she had nothing to hide. Were you surprised the state didn't bring her back to the stand today?
No, I thought it was a really smart move. I agree with you, by the way. Yesterday was a roller coaster. It was sort of like up, down, up, down. Obviously, that's the way trials work, and we're not at the end of it. We could have a lot more, as Katie just said. But I think it was a really smart move for the state not to ask any questions. Why? One, she got her story out. And it's not like, as you said, I mean, she spoke at length for hours. So there's not a lot to gain by asking her more questions. And what did they do by not asking any questions? One, they signaled to the judge, she wasn't damaged at all. She wasn't hurt. There was nothing that they didn't sort of lay a glove on her. So you don't need to ask any questions. Second, by not asking questions, you do not give the defense another opportunity to ask questions, because if you don't ask questions, there's nothing to rebut. So I think it was a very smart move.
So, Charles, we were here yesterday at this very same time when it was about half hour into what we learned to be an up and down roller coaster day. What do you expect today? And what do you think the impact of Willis's testimony was yesterday?
I think Fani Willis took a case that was in doubt, and she placed it firmly in the hands of her office. I think that after Mr. Wade testified, there were some questions as to the credibility of his story, what it was he was saying. And then, of course, there was Ms. Yurdi who was on the stand, and she testified basically in a way that was going to be harmful. At the point that Ms. Willis took the stand, there were legitimate questions, I think, as to whether she was fit or whether they were going to find her fit, rather, to move forward with this prosecution. But I think that her testimony added context to what Mr. Wade testified to and did enough to refute what Ms. Yurdi said in a way that ultimately dispelled any of those questions. In terms of today, what I'm looking for is, can the defense put on a witness or witnesses that are going to create a legitimate controversy such that they can advance this argument around disqualification? They have not done it at this point. At any sort of opening that they had, Ms. Willis closed with her testimony on the stand. I think Fani Willis did an exceptional job of doing that as a witness. She came across as being relatively personable, and that is because of her passion. It's an understandable passion that she had. She did come in hot, and a lot of people got upset when I said that, or when I remember our colleague Katie Tur said it, and people got upset about that. She did come in hot, but after that first break that the judge gave her, she settled in, she hit a rhythm, and she was very, very clear in her testimony about what it was that she wanted to get out, despite the fact that she basically walked merchants around the courtroom in terms of her inability to control her as a witness. That's just a matter of lawyering and skill. Ultimately, she did what she needed to do. And so now the defense has to put a witness on that's going to create a controversy.
And she had incoming from multiple defense attorneys. Correct. Because, again, these charges, or this allegation, I should say, was brought by Michael Roman, one of the co-defendants. But Trump's attorney was there questioning her. Another co-defendant's attorney was there questioning her, because some of these other co-defendants had sort of jumped on to this motion that she should be disqualified. So, Chuck, I'm curious to get your take. After all we witnessed yesterday, did Fani Willis help or hurt herself? And what are you watching for today?
Yeah, I agree with Charles. I think she helped herself. And by helping herself, more importantly, Anna, she's helping the district attorney's office and the people of Fulton County. I mean, that should be her goal, not self-preservation, but doing justice for the people she's sworn to serve. And
the case, of course, that they had before then into the election interference.
Yeah, cases matter a lot more than she does, and that's true of every prosecutor in every jurisdiction, state and federal. But this is precisely why, Anna, jurors are always told to consider all of the evidence, right? If we had all voted after the first witness, we might have voted one way. If we had all voted after the second witness, we might have voted another way. Jurors are routinely told by the judge at the beginning of a trial to consider all of the evidence and all of the arguments that they hear. And of course, they're not permitted to vote until all the evidence is done and all the arguments are done, and they've been instructed on the law. Here, of course, no jury, so the judge plays the role of trier of fact. But I think it's a good reminder for all of us to consider all the evidence. More to come.
And Andrew, looking at this, there seemed to be many different layers and levels to what was being discussed. First, when did you all start dating? Then, when was it a romantic relationship? And then, where did you go with him? And then, who paid for what? And was it a business credit card or cash? And where were the cash apps? All of these different layers and levels. Remind us once again, basically, the ethos of this case going on is what?
Exactly. So people who are thinking this case is being focused right now on when is there a relationship and is it improper to have a relationship? No, that is not what this case is about. It is also not that Fani Willis is on trial. That is also not the case. This is what the judge is looking for is follow the money. He is concerned about, is there a contract that the DA's office has with Mr. Wade that the DA herself is profiting from? It's all, that is what he said I am interested in. There is so far uncontradicted evidence from Mr. Wade and Ms. Willis that they split everything. There's a whole issue about, is it credible? Because there's an issue of he paid at times, she paid at times, and she says, I repaid in cash and I didn't use Venmo or Zelle or any sort of app. But there is no contrary evidence. So to my mind, what I'm looking for is, will there be contrary evidence to that issue, the finance issue presented by the defense? Because that's why we're here.
Right. So, Charles, we're going to hear presumably from this Terrence Bradley, who's a divorce lawyer, former divorce lawyer for Nathan Wade, also former business partner for Nathan Wade. And presumably they've worked out the attorney-client privilege issues that were all tangling things up yesterday at the start of the hearing. If you are Michael Roman's attorney who brought this allegation forward and are trying to get the case dismissed on all of this, what needs to happen today?
Michael Roman did everything he could, being the cyber sleuth that he is, to try and basically extract information from Mr. Wade's divorce proceedings to try and lead them to a victory, to give them the dots to make a connection. And the attorneys haven't done it. And they need to. And so to Andrew's point, and what most lawyers who are watching this, who are now familiar with disqualification law in the state of Georgia, are saying, you have to actually make a connection that is going to create an actual conflict. These pieces, these suggestions, these inferences that have led us to this point are not sufficient to get us to a point of disqualification. So if you want the disqualification that you've moved for, you've gotten a hearing that you asked for, you put all this stuff in the pleadings, now you have to actually connect the dots through witness testimony and other evidence. I'm sure, based off of the line of questioning that they had around Ms. Willis and the cash, that they were not expecting her to have an answer for where are the bank transactions that would substantiate this. She substantiated that through her evidence, through the testimony she provided. She gave context. That's out the window. So how are you now going to connect the dots in such a way that substantiates your story that somehow she was receiving an improper benefit and therefore should be disqualified? If I'm Mr. Roman and I'm looking at my attorneys, I'm thinking to myself, I've given you as many breadcrumbs as I can to lead you to the promised land. I need you to get us there.